Tēnā rā koutou katoa e te iwi whānui o te motu hoki. E mihi ana ki a koutou katoa I tēnei ahiahi pō. Welcome e te whānau, welcome to this very special live stream broadcast brought to you by MFM Te Reo o Te Iwi this evening. I'm your host of the mostest, Leon Hemera, e kaimahi ahau o MFM Te Reo o Te Iwi. Beautiful to have you guys on board. We are streaming across our live stream platforms right now, so welcome e te whānau. Get strapped in and get yourselves ready because we are going to have another engaging kōrero with fabulous panelists as we always do, and the topic of discussion is of course going to be the traffic light system as we move into that. It's 11:59 p.m. Later tonight. It's the talk all over the show, all over social media, on the streets. People are talking about it, so why not have that for our Puna kōrero this evening, and hopefully we can navigate you guys through and help you guys navigate through this whole traffic light system as we move through and how it affects us in our very own communities. And of course, I'm the one driving, but I can't do everything by myself, so we've got a host of wonderful panelists that are joining me this evening, and we have actually I won't introduce themselves because I know that they're chopping in the bits to do their own introductions right now. And you'll see some familiar faces, and you will see a new face on tonight. So we'll start with our new face of this evening. Tēnā koe Shani, kei a koe te wā.
Kia ora Leon, ko tāne te waka, ko mania potu te iwi, ko kahi wera te maunga, ko moka te awa, ko napinapi mō ka kuhunui ngā marae, ko Shani Johnson tōku ingoa. I started off as a kaimanaki about maybe 3 weeks ago and have currently just been upgraded to site leader at our COVID testing centre in Te Kuiti at the Maniapoto Nipo Centre. Ka pai. Thank you, Leon.
Kia ora, Shani. Nice to have you on board as a brand new panelist for this evening. And of course, e te whānau, she's not, she's been on a couple before, and we're happy to have her back again, Wiki Wira. Can you give us, some people might be just viewing for the first time tonight, e te tuahine, no reira, tēnā koe.
O mauri ora e te iwi, he uri tēnei no Ngāti Waiora, no Ngāti Runga Te Rangi. Anō hoki he uri tēnei no Ngāti Haua ki Taumarinui, anō Ngāti Porou hoki. My name is Wix, I'm from the Sticks. I am a kai tautoko for the kaupapa Puna Waiora, and we support rangatahi and Māori into health careers, and then I'm also working in the rangatahi vaccination and connection strategy for the Waikato DHB. It's meant to be here, shot fan.
Tēnā koe, Wix from the Sticks representing Maniaro, of course. Tēnā koe te tuhine. And you can see one more square there, e te whānau now. We did have somebody lined up tonight to come in, and that person, unfortunately, so we've just had to, we asked 100 people and we're left with one more. So we've got Winitana back with us. Tēnā koe te tuakana, kia ora.
Tēnā koe, Leon, tēnā tātou I te iwi. Look, it's great to be here with everyone this evening, albeit that I might be, scraping at the bottom of the barrel, but it's great to be with everyone tonight talking about a really important kaupapa, and I know that everybody's been talking about it on social media and certainly over the water coolers over the last few days as we, kind of count down to the 11:59 p.m. Changeover date. And I know, Leon, that you've had some pretty long nights this evening because a lot of our whānau have been talking about the traffic light system and this new COVID-19 protection framework.
Yes, it has been the talk of the streets around the water cooler, around the kai table, bro. And a lot of our maraes actually are having hui as we speak. So it's definitely a hot topic around the rohe and around the motu as well. So hopefully tonight we will be able to navigate a little bit better as well. And also Winitana will actually be our traffic lights officer. I'll call you tonight, bro, if that's all right. So you will navigate us through something from parts. Yeah.
A traffic light officer. I think that was a little bit before my time, I think.
Hey, bro, I can see you with the hat and the handcuffs, so kei te pai tēnā. Kia ora e te iwi. So we're actually going to get straight into this discussion right now. And I want to remind everyone at home that is viewing us on Facebook Live, right there on the post, you can put in your comments there, and our panelists, we will do our utmost best to answer all the questions that are coming through. And as always, there's a beautiful incentive for people posting their questions. We will be giving away $100 warehouse voucher at the end of this live. So everyone that puts in a question, we'll put you into a hat and we'll draw your name out at the end of the night and you will be the winner. So kia kaha koutou whānau, get those questions rolling in and we'll get them to our panelists. Now, I've actually got a question right here and I'll start this one straight off the bat. So I'm just going to put it out there like a fishing reel, and whoever wants to take this one, kia kaha koutou. So the first question that I've got is, what is the traffic light system? Now I'm going to actually throw this one towards Winnie Tana because he's looking like he can answer this question. Tēnā koe, bro.
Tēnā koe, Leon. Thank you. Sorry, I was the kind of the fish that was kind of swimming away from that bait, but I'll certainly try and do my best. And I think the Prime Minister and Minister Hipkins have done a good job of talking and breaking down the traffic light framework. So we know that it's actually called the COVID-19 Protection Framework, which resembles the traffic lights system. And everybody kind of refers to it as the traffic lights system. But it's the government's way of trying to kind of work with COVID-19, if I can use those words. But it's also a framework that's continuing to protect everyone here in Aotearoa, New Zealand, but also allows a bit more certainty and new opportunities, as they've said, and freedoms as well. The framework, Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern has said that it also provides a particular protection strategy. So we've gone from 4 alert levels down to 3 settings, which is red, orange, and green. And going into this particular traffic light system means that the government and the Ministry of Health are able to help minimise the spread of COVID-19 and also the inevitable hospitalisations that come with this virus, and keeping all of those to a very, very low level as much as possible. So that's essentially it in a nutshell, as we're transitioning from what we've known as the alert levels 1, 2, 3, and 4, and we're moving into the traffic light system of red, orange, and green. And I know that for most of us here in Maniapoto, that we are going into orange as of midnight tonight. So that's a little bit about the traffic light system. And I know that as the evening goes on, we'll get into a little bit more details about what each of those traffic light settings are, what they mean for those who are vaccinated, who have a My Vaccine Pass, and those that don't have a My Vaccine Pass.
Kia ora, bro, for that whakamārama. And of course, we will be diving a little bit more in depth into that kōrero as we navigate our way through this evening. I've got another pātai, and I'm going to throw this one to you, Wikiweda. Winston just, when he kind of touched on the current alert level system, and the pātai is, what is the difference between the current alert level system and the traffic light system?
Yeah, that's a really good question, actually. And I know that a lot of people have been asking that. So when we look at what we've been operating with at the moment with the alert levels, what I see the clear difference is that in the alert level system, there are lockdowns that can happen in order to try and protect as many people as possible. And I think the difference with the traffic light system is that the aim is to keep businesses open and keep opportunities to connect open, but have different ways of restricting us so that life can in some way, shape or form in a COVID world continue to happen, but still not having those lockdowns that have kept up a lot of us in our homes and disconnected from our whānau and our people. Yeah.
Kia ora wiki. Yeah, I've seen a lot of kōrero, especially out there on social media, of businesses that are transitioning into the new systems and businesses that aren't. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting moving forward for that one. But I've got a question for Shani now, your first question out of the box. And this one's to do with the My Vaccine Pass. And the partai is, what is the My Vaccine Pass?
Kia ora, Leon. So the My Vaccine Pass is you get a little code and you take it with you wherever you go, just like you do with your FPOS card and your license, I suppose. And it will get you into places that require a vaccine pass. Some people are finding it hard to access these because they don't have internet, or they don't have a phone, or they don't have email addresses that you need to have verifications from. If you go onto the COVID website, they give you guidelines on how you can access this if you can't get it on a phone. So I think that's the best way you can go through to get it. People have been asking when they come to the COVID testing site how they can access these. Some people say you can get it from their pharmacies. Those are, I think, at the moment, only ones who do the vaccination. So if you go to a vaccination pharmacy, they can give you your your vaccine pass, sorry. So yeah, that's what it's about, I think, Leon.
Kia ora, Shani. Papai, thank you for that. And just on that note, I was Ngāti Tureti, and I've just downloaded mine today because my wife gave me a very, she said, have you done your vaccine pass? And I said, no, I haven't. She said, well, you better get it done for tomorrow because tomorrow is the day. So it's very easy, te whānau. You can just go to Google and Google My Vaccine Pass, and the steps are right there. And it's simple as you can save it on your device, whether you've got Android or iPhone. Save it in your iPhone wallets, or you can actually get it printed out and have a physical copy. But why is it so important to have this vaccine pass, Wanitana? I'll give that one to you.
Yeah, so I've actually downloaded my vaccine pass. I've got it on the little printable form, and I've got it behind my phone. But the My Vaccine Pass is important, especially as we head into the new COVID framework tomorrow. And this really is significant for businesses because, as you may have heard, with the new traffic framework, there are particular restrictions around people who have a My Vaccine Pass and those that don't. And essentially, it's around freedom, the proximity to one another, the familiar restrictions that we experienced during the previous alert levels, and what you can and can't do really in a business. So with a My Vaccine Pass, if you do happen to have one and you're double vaccinated, you'll be able to have a little bit more freedom at a particular venue, at a particular business, as what you might not be able to have if you didn't have the My Vaccine Pass. And a lot of businesses are currently still working through discussions with the employees about how and what direction that they will take as a workplace, whether they will be a My Vaccine Pass workplace or a business that is, I guess, open to everyone. But it's going to certainly be interesting days coming ahead for us as we look towards, I guess, trying to get back into some normality, living with this My Vaccine Pass, living with businesses that will either scan your pass or allow those that don't have a vaccination to come through. But I think, Leon, that the most important thing to do over the next couple of days is to fully read up on the traffic light system, because I know that there are different alert colours for different parts of Aotearoa. And remember, for us here in Maniapoto, that we're currently in orange.
Ka pai, bro. Thank you for that. Since we said that we're currently in Orange, this one's for you, Wiki Wira. What does actually Orange look like for our community?
Cool. Really good question, bro. So when we look at the traffic lights, go is green, so it's kind of all go, not many restrictions. Orange, slow down, be aware, and then red is kind of like how do we put some major protections around people, and in order to keep the spread of COVID-19 down. So when we look at orange, for many of us in most of Maniapoto, it's about what is available for people who have vaccine passes, and then also what kind of events and spaces can you be in if you don't have a vaccine pass, and maybe you're not willing to jump into that kaupapa just yet. Maybe you need a bit more information. So we're looking at events and businesses could potentially say, yep, we're going to be open to people who don't have vaccine passes. And so they can have up to, I believe, 50 people inside their businesses, and they don't have to be vaccinated, so they don't have to spike. And that means that they can still have those opportunities. And on the other side, when we move into spaces that have vaccine passes, that you can have no limit of the amount of people that could come to your kaupapa. So it effectively means that we can start doing a lot more things that we haven't been able to do a lot through the last couple of years. So things like getting together. We can now see people in their houses and do big visits of up to, I think, 50 people in a whare. And so it's opportunities for our people to get more connected. Yeah, it's going to be cool. I think there's opportunities all around.
Yeah, kia ora wiki, tautoko tēnā kōrero. Yeah, I can see a lot more things happening within the currents, within the traffic light system. Of course, as long as people are vaccinated is going to be the big key. So yeah, moving forward will definitely be interesting. Now, there's been a big topic of discussion all over social media within the last couple of days as we're moving towards this transition of the traffic light system, and that's our marais. Ngā marae maha are currently having hui right now about the traffic light system, and it's been a big discussion all over the motu, actually, not only here in Ngāti Maniapoto. And I'll put this one to Shani first, but I'll also leave this one open as well. And the question is, Shani, what does orange look like for our marae?
So, Leon, if we have vaccine passes allowed on our marae, there are no limits for how many we can have gather on our marae. If vaccine passes are not used, we are up to 50. So that's for events as well as tangihanga. So yes, I have heard there are big kōrero going on at the moment with our marae about whether we put this into our marae, whether we have vaccine passes or not, because it can draw a line, and who's going to be waiting at the gate there? Who's going to be the one who's going to take on those people who come in with no vaccinations if we decide as a marae to only allow vaccine passes? Right.
Kia ora, Shani. Yeah, I'll leave this one open. If anyone else has any kōrero on this pato about orange in our marae. Wiki, you look like you got something to add to the kōrero?
Yeah, I'd love to talk a little bit more about that. So when we look at, I think the important thing to think about is how do we ensure that those connections, like I keep talking about, that our connections continue to happen, whether that's with the people we love and the whānau that we love, or whether it's those connections to those integral parts of us that make us Māori, so our tūranga waiwai, our whenua, our marae, and our communities. So I think each marae, as you're saying, they're having these conversations, and kei ia marae tōna ake whakaaro. They've each got their own whakaaro on why they want to put certain ways of working in their marae for the next foreseeable future. But I think when I think about our marae that I'm a part of as a trustee for Maniaroa in particular, and we've had these discussions as well, the key kōrero that we keep talking about is how do we ensure that everybody has access to our marae, no matter at what level. So we've talked about things like at tangihanga or at when ope come in, we have selected times for vaccine pass ope, and then other times where we have cleanup crews, not cleanup crews because our people are not dirty, but manaki crews for our ope that have not got vaccine passes, so that we can, after each ope comes through, do a bit of a whakapaipai to ensure that our marae is ready to welcome the next group. And so we're trying to work with both whakaaro, but we're yet to make a decision yet. So it's those important conversations that have to happen.
Kia ora, sis. Yeah, mean kōrero for that one. And some big decisions are ahead of us as a whānau, as a iwi, as a hapu. So I guess if we manaki each other and just kōrero, and I think that's what will get us through.
Yeah, and I think, Leon, one of the things that was just brought up recently, and one of the most important aspects to think about over the next few days is about how we maintain that connectivity with one another that Wikiwira spoke about. And I know that a number of our pa are having those conversations of how we stay connected with each other, how we stay connected with our whānau. And I think it's a little bit of a mindset change, because when COVID-19 first hit our shores, everyone, the mindset was, let's get rid of COVID, let's stop COVID and do what we absolutely can. But now the mindset has changed now to where we need to live with COVID and how we adapt with COVID in our environment. And I think that's what we need to think about, especially for those that are on marae, that are on pakamatis, is how now do we have COVID as part of our everyday life now, and what does that look like at our pa? Because the biggest thing is to try and remain connected with each other, and having those procedures and policies in place so that we can stay connected. And I know that the Ministry of Health have released a booklet, COVID-19 guidance for marae, and have provided some suggestions about how trustees can operate both with My Vaccine Pass and those that don't have a My Vaccine Pass. And Wikiwira spoke about having set times, set arrival times for each ope that come to the pa, and having that manaki crew that come through after each ope. And I think those are some necessary mahi that we need to do in order for us to stay connected with each other. It's certainly a new way of living, but I think the overall factor through all of this is just staying connected with one another.
Kia ora, bro. Tautoko that kōrero 100. E te whānau at home that are viewing on live Facebook Live this evening, welcome if you've just joined us. We are having a live Q&A session, and we are coming up to that part right now. So kia kaha koutou, post your guys' questions in the live stream in the post section, and everyone that posts a question will go into the draw at the end of the night when we'll draw a name out, and you will win a $100 voucher. So kia kaha koutou, no mai hara mai ngā pātai. And I think we're going to go straight into a question from our whānau on Facebook. Let's have a look in the pauaka. Kia ora, first question out, tēnā koe Shiloh. Why do you think so many people are upset about the traffic light system? Tēnā koe Wikiwira.
Yeah, that's an awesome question, Shiloh, because I know as we're talking about this, it is a point of contention for people. It's something that not everybody supports, and that's natural for anything, really. But I think where we come to the spaces where people are upset is that, for many Māori, getting a vaccination is a big choice, and it's not something that is taken lightly. It's something that needs wānanga, understanding, info, kōrero, and we learn well when we have a big wānanga and we have a kōrero kind of like this. And I think with all of the lockdowns and the separations that have happened across the nation over the last couple of years, we haven't had the opportunity to really understand and get into the ngako of the kōrero. And if we have and we've made those decisions, then we've decided, some of us have decided that it's not for us, and that's okay too. But it does mean that if people have made the decision that they don't want the vaccine, then there are restrictions in place for them in different spaces on how many people they can connect with. And I think why they are maybe upset is that the traffic light system and those restrictions inhibits them from connecting with their whānau as much as they want to. And that's the most important when we come to whānau.
Kia ora,
And
Wiki.
just to add to that, Kōrero tūna, and we've got whānau that who live all over Aotearoa, and we have whānau who live in higher alert level restrictions. And I know for a lot of our whānau that being in lockdown for a very long period of time, you soon begin to, I guess, lose faith and what is the plan or the rollout, because you've been so disconnected at such a long time from your loved ones, and you get to a point where all you want to do is see your loved ones, see your whānau, see your friends. And now that we've got this new traffic light system, I know some of our whānau is like another kick in the guts. They are looking towards I guess a significant amount of freedom, but they're just not there yet with this traffic light system. So we hear it all the time that our whānau, I guess they're getting hoha with what's going on, with all of the changes that have been happening since COVID first hit our shores, and it's kind of difficult to keep updated and up to play with what is happening with this pandemic, because it changes all the time. Our rules and our policies and our procedures change all the time. But one thing that doesn't change is the length and time that we're away from our loved ones. And I think that's a huge fact. And I know, Shani, that you've got whānau that experience the same thing of being distant from each other.
Yes, thank you, bro. Yes, I think an important thing that we need to think about during these times, and especially through these traffic light things, is that we need to keep in touch with our whānau and our friends. This thing here, your phone, has now become your life and how you connect with your people. Unfortunately, you are not able to have your face-to-face kōrero with your friends at lunch all the time, especially after having run your COVID test. And yes, in our rohe at the moment, our stats are way up here. So our whānau are scared and they're worried. So they are self-isolating on their own without being advised to, which is great. But we still need to keep in touch with those people so that they know that they are still loved and accepted within our community, and that the choices they are making is okay. Yeah, goodbye, bro.
Kia ora, Shani. Yeah, tautoko tēnā kōrero. We're all in this together, e te whānau, so the best way we can navigate through it is to just manaaki each other. So kia kaha koutou katoa. Rightio, we've got another question in our pauaka, and this one's actually for you, Shani. This one's Shanae. Kia ora, Shanae. And the question is, what are the differences with the traffic light system?
Kia ora, Shanae. The difference with the traffic light system and the alert system is that we are now having to learn to live with COVID. So green means go, orange means to slow down and think about some of the things we can put into place to protect our iwi, and red means we need to put up some big barriers to help as well. Hope that answers your question. Kapai, Wix, can you help me there, bro?
Yeah, I think you answered it really well, Shani, but I think it's just some other things to add to it is so that at green, when we look at the possibilities for how many people can come together, when we look at green with vaccine passes, there's no limits on the amount of people you can have. And I think if you were to have an event where we have no vaccine passes, then I think there's a restriction of about up to 100. When you look at orange, if you have a vaccine pass, it's all go. If you have an event where there's no vaccine passes, it's at 50. And then if you go down again to the red, if you have, let's say you were to have a party, if you had a party and and you said, oh, it's all right, you don't have to have vaccine passes at this party, you could have up to 25 people. But that also means, in terms of tangihanga as well, gatherings at marae, it does restrict the amount of people, but it doesn't mean that our manaakitanga and our connections won't stop. So I think that's an important part to play in our traffic light system.
Kia ora kōrua for that. All right, so we got another pātai in our pauka. This one is for a Winitana. Kayla's asking, why was the alert level system swapped out for the traffic light one? And it's a good question for our traffic officer, Winitana.
I was actually going to say that, Ashani, your answer previously was probably the best answer that I've heard to that question. And I think that's one of the most important things, is trying to make the content, the information a lot more digestible for our people to understand. Great questions coming through, like this one from Kayla. Why was the alert system swapped out for the traffic light one? And I think Shani and Wikiweeda have touched on this earlier in the evening. It's about moving from that period of stopping COVID-19 in its track. So we've gone from that phase, and we've now moved into another phase where it's about living with COVID-19. And so this COVID protection framework enables not only we as whānau, as a community, but also as businesses to be able to operate under the new conditions of living with COVID. The alert levels that we had previously didn't give us that kind of flexibility and freedom that is needed for us to live with COVID. Hence the reason why we've transitioned over to the new traffic light system. So I hope that it helps answer your question there, Kayla.
Kia ora. And I hope Kayla's baby is in bed at the moment. That is the question that I'm asking. Kia ora, Kayla, for your question, and thank you for that whakamārama, Winitana. Next one out of the pauaka. Ei, tēnā koe matua. Is my vaccine record obsolete now? This one's for you, Wikiweeda.
That's a really good question, Abe. And I think it comes down to when we think about obsolete, like it's not. I think it's not worth it anymore, but it actually is worth it. So when we look at our vaccine records, this may even be in regards to the new strand that's coming out. And I know that people are like, I've heard Kōrero, like, why should I even continue to get vaccinated if there's a new strain and I'm going to need another one pretty soon? So I think it comes down to adding layers of protection around you and your whānau. So the layers of protection around you when you're vaccinated are higher to keep this ngangara out, no matter which strand it is, than they would be if you didn't have a vaccine. So I don't think it's obsolete. I think that it's an opportunity to see what else can add to your layers of protection, not just vaccines, but whānau order packs or whānau plans that can help.
And if I can just add on to that, I think that the vaccine record, and in particular the My Vaccine Pass, for those that have downloaded it, will almost become as important as carrying around a driver's license or passport. So it'll be something that you probably wouldn't leave home without. And if you take a look at it, the number of the businesses that are having to use the My Verifier, you certainly wouldn't be able to leave home without your pass. So I think having a record will certainly play its part in the days and certainly the weeks to come.
Kia ora, bro. And I'm speaking of the vaccine passes. I've actually seen people walking around with them on lanyards now. So, I suppose you can get creative how you're actually carrying around the physical. But like Shani said, your phone is your best friend. It's not just for Instagram now, whānau. It's for these passports so that you can move throughout Aotearoa pretty much, and possibly the world. Ka pai, don't forget whānau, everyone that is putting in pātai into our pauaka this evening, you're all going into the draw to get that $100 warehouse voucher. So kia kaha koutou for those that have just joined us. Welcome. Get your questions in. If you have any pātai whatsoever pertaining to the kōrero or not, He pai ana tira, put them into the box, and we will do our utmost best to answer these pātai. Next one out of the box is for Shani, and this is from Margs. And Margs' question is, can we move between these lights? That's a good question. Tēnā koe, Shani.
Yes, we can. I think if you're vaccinated and you have your vaccine pass, that is going to be pass. Your pass to go through the different lights there. So I encourage you, whānau, to have your vaccination so that you can get your pass and be able to move between the lights. Ka pai.
Kia ora, kia kaha koutou, kia kaha. Wenitani, you got something to add to this one, I can see?
As a
Jumping
traffic
at the
officer, I was just going to add on to Shani's kōrero, and she is correct that you'll certainly need to have your My Vaccine Pass to pass between regions, if you like. We know that some regions are in red or will be in red tomorrow. Others will be in orange. For those that don't carry the My Vaccine Pass, you'll need to be able to provide a verification of a test, negative test, a negative test.
I hope not.
Before you, sorry, let me get that correct. A negative test in order for you to cross between the borders. And whilst there isn't going to be like a checkpoint border as such, the Ministry of Health and government have advised that the police will be doing spot checks in those particular areas where the borders are. So if you are intending to cross over, you'll either need to have a My Vaccine Pass or a verification that you've been tested recently with a negative test result.
Ka pai. Thank you both for that. And our next question is for you, Winitana. Let's have a look in the pauaka. Christelle, tēnā koe. Do you think we should be in red considering how many cases we have here in Waikato? Ai tēnā pātai. Very good question.
Yes, well, so the answer is yes. I think so. We live in a very small community. If you take a look at Otorohanga and Te Kuiti, we have significantly high numbers of COVID-19 cases. Our vaccination rates amongst Māori are still pretty low. And we're still not yet at the 90% across our districts, 90% target milestone yet. And I think when you look at, in particular, our rural communities, our isolated communities, who, we tend to, stay in our own backyard. But for some reason, we've got high numbers of COVID-19 cases, and the numbers are soaring, and people are, wondering why have we got such high numbers? What is being done to help reduce these numbers down? And it just seems that the only way that we can reduce the numbers or to stop that spread of COVID is to put us at a higher alert level. And I know that a lot of people in the community have kind of pushed for Maniapoto to go into a red setting tomorrow. Lots of questions were asked as to why we were put in at orange, considering that there are other districts, other regions who are neighbouring our own communities who don't have COVID cases, who have higher vaccination rates, but they've been placed at red. So it's certainly the kōrero that's on the street. I think our people are wanting to be at red, and that's only because of the high numbers that we have at the moment, and just a strong will to protect our loved ones that are near us.
Kia ora, bro.
I'm going to jump on there, please, bro.
Abai, Shani.
Ka pai. Another thing is, whānau, just a reminder with the mahi that I'm doing at the moment with the COVID testing, we get lots of pātai, lots of questions about self-isolation. If you have been tested because you are a casual or a close contact or something to do with the COVID business, you need to go home immediately. You cannot go home to the supermarket, down to the bakery, and then go home. You need to go home straight away, whānau. And I think that's might be a factor as into why it keeps spreading. We want to go and see our friends quickly before we go home to be locked up for 14 days or whatever the day time frame is. So, whānau, I encourage you with your masks to horoioringa, sanitize your hands, and to remember when you are self-isolating that's what you are doing. You are self-isolating. Kia ora, whānau.
Kia
And
ora,
if I
Shani.
can just quickly jump in there, sorry, Leon. And I
Course you
think
can.
probably just to talk about the elephant that's in the room, because I know that our whānau have been saying, we've got high numbers in our towns, in Otorohanga, in Te Kuiti, and why is that? And I know that people are saying it's because people are not isolating, they're not staying home, they're not doing what is required. And I think, as Shani explained, it maybe alluded to the fact that this is possibly the reason why we have such high numbers, is because before they go into lockdown, they're quickly running around, doing their last bit of, hellos, kia ora, goodbyes, getting this, getting that. But inadvertently, whilst they're doing that, they're actually, spreading the COVID-19, and so that could possibly be another reason why we've got such high numbers here in our community. But it's certainly the elephant in the room, Kōrero, that everybody is talking about. People aren't staying at home, people aren't self-isolating, and I applaud Shawnee for the mahi that and Wikiweeda that they're doing in being frontline workers, but also continuing to advocate for people to stay at home, which is a key aspect of stopping the spread of COVID.
I think, bro, that comes back to, like if you do have a test, don't be shy, don't be whakamā, reach out to someone to say, hey, bro, look, I've got to self-isolate for the next 5 days. I've got symptoms coming up. Could you please drop me off some kai? Or you can ring Food Bank. There are lots of people out there to awhi, to tautoko and support you. You just need to be able to make that leap, and don't be embarrassed about it. Kei te pai, we're all in the same boat here. We're all going to be paddling the same waka and going the same way. So if you can make that big call just to say, look, bro, could you please drop me off some groceries today? I need to self-isolate. Kei te pai, we're all in this together, whānau.
Kia ora, Shani. And just to add to that one, so for example, and I'll throw this one to Wikiweeda. So if, let's use my whare for example. Let's say my wife had to go get a COVID test and we're waiting for the COVID test results to come back. Does that mean the whole whare goes into isolation?
There are a different kind of like two ways of looking at it, bro. So if let's say your wife goes in and she's symptomatic, which means she's got symptoms, then they'll say you need to isolate until you get your results back, which means like Shani and Winston have said, you go straight home and you just stay there until you get your results. And so usually if you're symptomatic, what they'll say is let's try and reduce the chances of everybody in your whare getting these symptoms, because then they all have to get tests or should get tests. So we try to say things like, try and stick to one room, or it's hard because, as Māori, if a mama, like if your partner was to get that, you want to stay close to them. But I think we have to sit and think about how do we support and keep all of us safe. And that means the person that is isolating, but also us in the whare, all of us staying safe.
Kia ora, thank you for that, Wikiweeda. Ka pai. Right here, we're going to have a look in the pauaka for another pātai e te whānau. And I think it's your turn again, Wikiweeda. This is from Bevan. Kia ora, Bevan. Kia ora. Have you ever heard of any marae around what plans there will be around the huitangi, etc.? For example, how do they scan for vax pass, etc.?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. And I think that comes down to, for us in particular at Māniaroa, being a more rural marae, for us, we had to have the conversations about who is in town. So even though there are so many uri of our marae, not all of them live in town. in the huge town of Moko. And so how many people do we have to actually action this plan? If we're going to make a plan of somebody standing at the gates to scan vax passes and to do sign-ins, and a manaaki crew to do a bit of a whakapai, how many people do we actually have on hand? So I think for each marae, they have to ask themselves those questions. Who do we have in the community and right locally that are able to do those spaces? The other thing to think about is if we don't have all those people on hand in our communities, does that mean that our marae doesn't open? Or is it that we bring people home and help them to do those spaces? But I think, as Māori, we're very adaptable, so we can think of ways to either scan or have QR codes, find one of the cousins who's an admin, get them to use the school printer for those QR codes, make up some of our rongoa to sanitise and work together for each marae's whakaaro.
Beautiful. I love that whakaaro of the rongoa sanitisation. Man, I have to get that recipe off your wiki.
Kaupapa
Leon, my bro,
Mate.
I've got a New Zealand pass verifier.
Oh, kapai.
Just download on the phone. So I'll show you how it works. So at the moment, I'm just scanning this passport here. In any second. And now it's going to tell me on my phone that it's valid. Can you see? Maybe you can't see. It might be a little bit blurry.
Kapai.
But on the phone, it's got valid and it's got who the person is and their date of birth and stuff. So that's how one way a marae can use it if they have a phone on standby. But I understand that not everybody gets service, so it might not always work. So we might be back to the pen and paper, bro.
Shani, how did you get that for our whānau out there? How can they get their hands on that app?
You can download it off the COVID COVID-19 Healthline page. It's just called the New Zealand Pass Verifier, is what it's called, whānau.
Beautiful. There we go, whānau. Go down and download that app, even if you've got an Apple iPhone. Kia kaha koutou. All right, let's have a look.
I was just going to say, Leon, that okay. I'm glad that you actually brought that, Shani, that you brought that example up of the My Verifier, because I know that was one of the key questions that have been asked across our marae over the last week, is how we identify the people who have got a My Vaccine Pass and not. So yes, absolutely, downloading that Verifier app is certainly one way. But I think the other side of the coin that we also need to think about, which I know a lot of people kind of forget, and Wiki Wiri, you touched on this, is that most of our people, most of Maniapoto don't live inside Aotearoa, and you can almost count on one hand who are ahikara at our pā at our marae. And when you look at a plan, unfortunately, just a couple of people isn't enough people at home to coordinate, to facilitate, to operate or to implement a plan for all of our whānau to come home. And I hear all the time that, yes, let's do the plan, let's implement this plan, let's go ahead. All those in favour say aye, but they forget that our marae right across the rohe, we don't have many people at home these days, and I think that's one important aspect that all whānau need to remember, that anything that we do at our pā, at our marae, it's reliant on those that stay here, and unfortunately that's the reality. Is a majority of our people have moved away. They've gone to the bigger cities, and it's left us to a few to keep the home fires burning.
That's right, bro. There's only 90%. There's only 10% left that are living in the rohe. So yeah, absolutely correct there. You want to touch on that one too, Wiki Wira?
Oh, I was just thinking. So just to add another kōrero to that, is that when we don't have as many people at home in our ahika, who are the other people in our communities that we can connect with? So for our marae, we don't have as many ahika living in Moko, and we have a cleaner who is not Māori, who supports us by going and doing the cleanup afterwards. So it's an opportunity for us not to just look at our own people, but how can we work with our communities, and the people who manaaki us don't have to just be our uri, they can be everyone else as well. We're all one team.
Ka pai, bro. And or as if Auntie hasn't got enough people to delegate her, now she's got to put someone on the gate. You're down the gate, bro.
When you finish that, go down to the gate. When you finish that, go back up to the top. When you finish that, go down there.
No, that's awesome with you, Rita. I think what you've just shown there is I think it's just the beauty of who we are. That, you know, whatever challenges we are faced with, we always come up with some plan, some workaround. Because you know, your suggestion about, you know, using you know, the local community cleaner is something that I would not have thought of. But you know, what a wonderful solution to, you know, a problem for, you know, for those that don't have large numbers of ahika. And again, I think it's just I guess our uniqueness of being able to figure out our plan. And I know that the ministry have provided a lot of guidelines for marae to consider. But at the end of the day, I think it's only ourselves that will be able to provide the best outcome for our people and the best way forward for not only our people, but for our pā, for our marae.
Kia ora, bro. And just to add to that, you know, us as Māori, we are the most adaptable people there are. We can adapt to anything that's get thrown our way, and we can just make it work. So yeah, I think if we all remember that, we can get through this 100%. Right, I think we're going to go back to the questions. This one's from Renee, and I think we're up to, I think this one's for you, Shani. Does failing to meet the obligations of the plan to be open and use Q-Scan have consequences of prosecution for the marae if they can't meet the steps their plan has indicated, avoiding costs and accountability? Wow, that's a good question too. Very good question.
That is a good question. I don't know any of the legal sides of things, sorry, Renee. But I'll chuck it up to you, Anita.
Yeah, kia ora. So the short answer is yes. So trustees of pā of marae have a legal responsibility to look after everyone that comes onto your pā, onto your marae. So it is a requirement that you have some sort of plan in place, and that your plan is able to look after the people that come onto the pā, onto the marae. And you know, if there are some shortcomings, if there are some gaps in your plan, and you know, if should the unfortunate thing happen where, you know, people become ill, sick, or injured, then yeah, the trustees of the pā of the marae will certainly be liable for whatever the consequences come in. I know, Wiki Wida, you're currently a trustee, and I know that you know, our whānau in Moko have had you know, some very serious conversations, and I know this particular thing, the obligations, is one of the key aspects when trustees have had a hui. Are you able to talk to us a little bit about maybe you know, where the trustees are sitting at, and you know, how intimidating really is it for our trustees to, you know, hear words like obligations and policies and procedures?
Yeah, I think, you know, as a trustee and as trustees on any marae operate, I think we tend to operate on manaakitanga and uara, our values before our policies. And so in particular, the kōrero that we had kind of shared aspects of how do we ensure safety for our marae in terms of trustees and obligations. So it came down to talking about if somebody is to book the marae, that we have, you know, a contract or a bit of a kauenata, something for them to sign for any person who comes in to book, that they understand if you're going to book this venue, our marae, and have a kaupapa that has passes, vaccine passes, then these are the things that we kind of need you to make sure happens, so that the obligations and the accountability is shared. But also on the other side, if you are going to operate with no passes, then potentially there might be a higher cost for hiring, because what it means at the moment is that there's added cleaning costs. There's people that have to come in, maybe from different parts of the rohe, to support that to happen. So trying to make sure that the cost is fair, but also reflects the added kind of mahi that needs to go on in the background to ensure our marae stays open for people. Yeah, so there's heaps of things to discuss and consider for each marae.
Yeah, so many different aspects will come into play for those discussions. So, te whānau, kia kaha koutou, ki te kōrero. All right, next one out of the box. I think this one's for you, Wanitana. It's from Joanne. And my question, please, is I support whānau choice and not being forced to vax. How do we support them with the light system?
Tēnā koe, Joanne. Yeah, and that's an awesome question. And I think the most important thing to remember is that whether you are vaxxed or unvaxxed, is that we need to remain connected with each other. We need to be kind to one another. We need to continue to talk to one another. And I think that if that is at the forefront of our minds, then any decisions that we moving forward will be inclusive as opposed to exclusive. It's certainly a hard one, and it's for those that are on trustees, for those that are on marae and pa, they've been given that terrible task of having to decide whether you become a vaccinated pa or not. And for the ministry, the guidelines are very clear cut. You've got one team over here and one team over there. And I know that our whānau are having to, try and work around that. So unfortunately, I don't have an answer to that in terms of how we support our whānau through this light system. And I think for me, I'm like many other whānau out there that we're kind of waiting to see what other whānau are doing, what other marae are doing to kind of, maybe get some ideas from them and kind of follow their lead. And I think this is probably where we all kind of need to, come together and just have a little bit of a wānanga about, what is working well for us and what isn't. And I mean, if we, look back just not so long ago, Wiki Wida spoke about, the cleaner in the community. She's further on down the countryside than what I am. But, I would not have known, that wonderful idea if we had not come together. So I think it's about, just remembering that we are still whānau at the end of the day, and we need to find a workaround so that remains intact. And I think one of the biggest ways of doing that is just coming together and having a little bit of a kōrero. So, yeah, that's just my response, Joanne. I'm not too sure if I've answered that for you, but hopefully it's something to think about moving forward anyhow.
Yeah. Kia ora, Joe, for that pātai. Very, very good question. Thank you for that, Wanitana. Let's have a look in the pauka for one for Wiki Wida. This one's from media. Can a marae swap between using vaccine passes and not using them?
Yeah, I think that depends on each marae. So some marae may think, actually, we're just going to stay with having groups that have vaccine passes. It may be a little bit easier for them with the amount of kaimahi and kaihapai that they have on the ground. But for other marae, they may say that they could swap in between having, if someone was to book and they say they're going to have a booking and they are going to have vaccine passes, then cool, there's a plan of attack for when they have those kinds of events. And then also if someone was not wanting to have vaccine passes and have it free and available for people to come, that there was another plan in place for them. So it can be interchangeable. I think the other things to think about, we talked about it a bit this morning just before, about having different times for different ope and having vaccine pass ope and then non-vaccine pass ope, but that can also move into our wharekai. So you could have, outdoors arrangements for our unvaccinated rōpū, and then maybe indoors, and more people are able to be indoors for the vaccinated whānau. So there's ways to work around it. Yeah, definitely.
Kia ora, Wiki. Thank you. All right, here we've got one more pātai, and this one's for you, Shani. This is our last one out of the box for tonight, and it's from Shiloh. There's an expiry on my vaccine passport. So does this mean I have to get vaccinated to renew my passport every year to be able to move around freely? That's a good question.
That is a great question, Shiloh. So every time you get what we call our booster jabs, you need to update your COVID or your vaccine passport, so that you can every time you get your booster, it pops up to show that you're all up to date with your passport. Miniata, what do you got on that one, my bro?
Yeah, so my understanding to that is, I remember hearing the Prime Minister talking about that anything that is got an ID kind of feel to it needs to have an expiry date on it. I haven't heard any specific requirements about getting another vaccine. But I know that with this vaccine pass, that they're continually reviewing the outlay of the vaccine pass, and I have heard that they might extend the expiry date to a year, but that's still to be confirmed.
Kia ora, korua. Thank you for that. Wiki, you've got something to add to that as well?
Yeah, I think it's when we look at our boosters and they say 6 months after your last shot, after your second vax, you're eligible to have a booster. I think it just adds to the kōrero that if it has a shorter amount of time, it means that we know you're protected for those amounts of time. So we just want to ensure that you don't have a vaccine pass that goes for 2 years, but you were only vaccinated or in this amount of time. We want to ensure that people are safe when they're going around with vaccine passes. But I did just want to add to some of the kōrero that went on before around how do we support our non-vaccinated whānau and our rohe. So I think something that we need to start doing in whānau is having conversations and creating whānau packs. So sitting down in our whānau and saying, okay, who are the people around me that if I was to have to isolate, who are my first point of call to get some of these things to me? So even if they were to get COVID-19, they've got those connections in the community to go to straight away. And we've thought about it before instead of on the spot when it happens.
Kia ora koutou for e rā whakamārama mō tērā pātai. Thank you very much for that. Kia koutou e te whānau I mātakitaki mai I tēnei hotaka ki Facebook. Thank you for tuning in tonight and sending in those pātai for our awesome panelists to answer, because without you guys we wouldn't have had any questions to answer. So e mihi ana kia koutou katoa, and just a reminder, everyone that did send in pātai tonight all have gone into a draw, and we've done our best to answer every single question. We've been inundated with questions tonight, so thank you for that, but unfortunately we haven't been able to answer everybody's questions. But everybody that has asked a pātai has gone into a hat, and we will be drawing the winner of the warehouse voucher to the value of $100, and I think we've got a winner now. So our winner is, congratulations, Renee Mitchell. Tēnā koe. Well done. Thank you for your pātai as the winner of the $100 warehouse voucher. Thank you very much for that, and we will get that out to you as soon as we can. Also, I want to thank our specialist panelists for this evening. Thank you very much for coming on and answering questions and helping us navigate our way through the traffic light system that will be kicking in all over Aotearoa at midnight tonight. So kia kaha koutou, get those vaccine passes and make sure you're using them, and also just manaaki each other, and be
Aye.
kind to each other. That's
Aye.
the most important thing. So wiki wira tēnā koe e te tuahine o tira kia koe Shani. Thank you very much for jumping on as a first-time panelist. I'm going to say now it won't be your last time, Shani. So stick around. Definitely come back again and have another kōrero. And also to our COVID traffic light officer, Winitana, tēnā koe, bro. Thank you for your guidance this evening. Tēnā rā koutou te whānau. So let's look at the vaccination centres for tomorrow, Friday, the 3rd of December. Te Kuiti Medical Centre, 9:30 a.m. through to 4:30 p.m. Also in Te Awamutu, the vaccination centre there, 9 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. Also here in Otorohanga Medical Centre, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And also down at McDonald's while you guys are going through the drive-through, 12 p.m. through to 5 p.m. and all Pārure Marae, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Kia kaha koutou, go and get those vaccinations done, get tests done, and look after yourself. So all our panelists, e mihi ana kia koutou katoa anō. Also to all of our whānau viewing at home, thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you for your pātai. It's time for us to cruise off for another night. So look after yourselves, e te whānau, and a big mihi going out to each and every single one of you. Pō Mārie.
Thank
Pō Mārie.
you, Tiffany.